Tara Connor for you all today. You want to hold the mic, or do you want to? Appreciate it.
I thought his countdown was great. Brandon, give him a round of applause. Oh, okay. So I want to start off with just letting you know that being a recovery advocate and being in this field for as long as I have, we tend to want to, and you might relate to this, when you get a little time in sobriety and you get some self-knowledge and you almost want to present as if you're a finished product, right? Because we want to help people, we want to be of service, we want to be a voice for the voiceless. But the truth is that recovery is for life. And life gets lifey. And I may seem a little all over the place today because life is lifey. My daughter at home is sick. I have a cat that's in the hospital that it looks like we might have to put him down. It's our third animal that we would lose this year if that happened. So if collectively you can just say a prayer for Kevin. Kevin! That would be amazing. But all I can do is present just as I am, because my fear of looking bad and not presenting as a finished product almost killed me in recovery. So if you're in recovery, I don't care if you've got 50 years. I implore you to just let people know when you can use a little extra support, because the best thing that I've learned in my recovery to say is I'm hurting. I don't know why. I just need some direction. So with that being said, I am going to present as the product that I am in this moment, and I appreciate the grace if you can give it to me. My name is Tara Connor. I am a person in long-term recovery. For me, that means that I haven't had a drink or a drug since December 11th of 2006. Thank you. And it's because of people like you. I was raised in recovery because I got sober a week before I turned 21, so I've never had a legal drink. Hair flip. And my story is weird. So I grew up in a very small town in Kentucky called Russell Springs. Have you heard of it? You have? Wait, are you from there? Stop it! What? Wait, you're from there? Did you go to Russell County High School? Where did you go to high school? Oh. That's so cool. So you've spent time on Lake Cumberland. Oh my gosh, yeah, like we live right, anyway, so there's, what? Your people. Yeah, that's my people. This is amazing. So then you know what it's like to live there. So when I was growing up, my town had 2,300 people, 2 stoplights. The nicest buildings in the town were the churches and the banks. It was a dry county, so they didn't sell alcohol, but I had a bootlegger named Turtle. And I don't know if you guys do this here or not, but it was very much keeping up with the Joneses. So a lot of the theme in my house was we don't talk about what goes on in the house. And when we go to school, we want you to look like you're pretty. My mom used to be like, can you at least brush your hair? Side note, my mom's watching my 2.5-year-old right now, and she was chasing her around the house trying to get a ponytail in her hair before she went to preschool. I was like, lady, she doesn't want a ponytail. Let her live her best life. It's that generational trauma. She said, well, when I was that age or when I was a mother, I knew that I needed to present my children as a representative of us. Well, let me tell you what that really looked like. When I was 3 years old, I told my mom and dad in my 3-year-old voice that I didn't want to go to my grandmother's house where my uncle lived because he made my butt hurt. My dad, who was his bigger brother, gave him a stern talking to. But that was it. I grew up in a home where alcoholism was that crack of a can. You know it. I don't know if that crack of a beer can ever gave you that feeling of like doom, because I knew that it was going to get bad. My mom was a major codependent. She had a big-ass broom that she would brush all of the things under the big-ass rug, and we just didn't talk about anything. It wasn't, do not smoke cigarettes. The message was, just don't let anyone see you smoke. Does anyone relate to that? Yeah? Cool. So I was also raised in a home where the belief system spiritually was a little culty. It was, if you drink, smoke, have premarital sex, you're going straight to hell. And I was like, wow, my uncle didn't give me a choice in that matter. So from the age of, hey, come back. Excuse me. Hello? So at the age of 3, I was taught that this almighty, all-loving God would not accept me because I had done some things. And that's devastating. And I think a lot of us have been raised with some weird belief systems that have been passed down that kind of like imprint on your soul. And trying to break those belief systems is like trying to get rid of your molecules. It's hard. So I developed this idea that if I can make everything look perfect on the outside, maybe I can make the insides catch up. But my earliest memories of emotions were feelings of shame. I didn't even know what shame was, but I know the feeling. Not being enough, not worthy of protection, not worthy of love, not worthy of respect, not worthy of a voice. And so I know what it feels like to be suicidal before ever putting a drink or a drug inside of my body. Does anyone relate to that? Yeah. Because I think the misconception is that we start using and then we become these crazy people, but that's not it. The unmanageability starts within our emotional nature before we ever put the first one in. And when we do put that first one in, what did you feel? Relief. I can walk around in this meat suit and I'm confident. You know what I mean? This meat suit's really uncomfortable. So as I was growing up, I was a competitive cheerleader, a competitive gymnast. I did all the things. When I was 14, I was put on the varsity cheerleading squad, and this was right when I got out of elementary school. So my peers coming right out of elementary school were juniors and seniors. And I'm like this little chihuahua that's like, love me, and they're like, get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't want to hang out. So again, I feel like I don't belong. I had also experienced traumas that I felt like most of the kids my age couldn't wrap their head around. So I always felt like this older person in this very young body that had just lived too much too soon. And so when we went on a cheerleading trip to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, it was a basketball competition, and I was rooming with some juniors and seniors. And it was spring break. So they were able to find a gallon of vodka and a gallon of orange juice. So I made my first drink. And it was in a red Solo cup, and I did it like my daddy did. And I put 75% vodka, 25% orange juice, and I chugged it because I wanted to look like I've done this before. And then just like I knew, I put 5 minutes later, 75% vodka, 25% orange juice, and I chugged that. This is a red Solo cup. I was 80 pounds. Like, I was this little teen time that immediately blacked out. I come to, making an offering to the porcelain gods, and the room was insane. There was a girl that was just crying about weird stuff. Hey, excuse me. Hello. There it is. She was like doing some self-harm, and I was like, oh my God. And then, there was some other people on the bed doing stuff, and I was like, oh my God. And I was just mortified in the best way possible. I was like, I have found my people. Because I related. Because the chaos in the room felt like the chaos in my body. And for the first time, I felt like I was a part of something. And I was desperate to be a part of something. I tried with every fiber of my being to belong. I just felt like I didn't have the roadmap to life. Like I didn't get the textbook that everyone else got, right? And so and it wasn't for a lack of trying. Like I wanted to be a good Christian because I heard that that's what you're supposed to do. I went to church with my granny, and she always had great mints in her bag. Or those like little Werther's caramel, you know what I'm talking about? Okay, cool. So, but I would see people like go to the altar and like hit their knees and hallelujah. And I was like, all right, I think I'm doing this right, because I was seeking, because they had something about them. There was like this presence, this neutrality, this like calm and comfort, and I desperately wanted that. So I mimicked everything that they did because I was like, I think I'm supposed to do this, right? Am I doing it right? I was desperate for God to step into my life. I was desperate to be able to walk this world without feeling nauseous every day when I woke up. I thought I was allergic to 6 a.m. Turns out I have a panic disorder. But I always felt so sick in the mornings, and I would miss a lot of school. And it was hard. It was hard. I lived in a house where I was taught, do as I say, not as I do. And I don't respect my parents. I respect my mommy now. My dad, we got some work to do. But I just felt this deep-seated feeling of like chronic aloneness, like a hopeless state of mind and body. I couldn't change the way I felt. I couldn't change my thoughts. I couldn't get relief. I sought refuge in drugs and alcohol because it worked. The next morning after I had my first drink, I had the worst hangover of my life. Like, I remember it. It was a good one. Like, the ones where you pray and you're like, if you just get me through this one, I swear I'll never do it again. I made a firm resolution to never touch it again, and I meant it. And then by the end of my 14-year-old year, I was doing morphine. I love this type of crowd because you're the only ones that I can talk to where I'll say stuff like that, and you'll be like, same. Other crowds where there's a lot of normies, you're just like, like people will clutch their pearls, and they'll be like, it's okay. You're allowed to talk about life things. We should do that more. We should really be honest when people are asking us, how are you? I am neurodivergent as a mofo. And so when people ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, well, I woke up in a great mood, and then my cat had to go to the hospital, and I had to run 4 groups today, and I didn't have time to do shit, and I feel like I need to brush my teeth, but I haven't done that yet because I'm just like so depressed, and how are you? And I wish more people did that, because I only identify with people that can get down like that. I don't care about your job. Truly, I could give 2 Fs, not even 1. I don't care how great your kids are doing. My kid doesn't like to wear ponytails. And guess what? That's okay. She doesn't have to. If she doesn't want to wear a ponytail, she shouldn't be forced. But there's this thing called generational trauma that gets passed down. And I can see my mom trying to do the same things that she did to me to my daughter. And as a recovered woman, I can actually, in a very nice way, say, Mommy, if she doesn't want to put her hair in a ponytail, that's okay. She doesn't like it. She says it hurts her hair. Step off, lady. Anyway. I don't say that because I respect my mom. Now I do. It took a second, but we got there. So, as my using progressed, I functioned, okay? When people are like, I was a functioning drug addict. Because you were probably taking your drug of choice that treated your underlying issues, right? So I remember when I would go to school, do you guys remember those yellow jackets, those like caffeine pills? like that free meth from the gas station. I just knew that if I took those before school, for some reason I could focus more and I did better in school. And then when I'm turning 30, which was 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with ADD. I had a severe panic disorder where I would feel nauseous when I woke up to go to school. My opiates made me not feel that. If I took a benzo, I could breathe. Because guess what? If you look at my ACEs score, do you know what that is? Adverse childhood experiences is the clinical thing. I'm like a 10 out of 10. Like, if you have 2 traumatic experiences, you are more likely to become ill. Not only mentally, you can get diabetes, you can get heart disease, because we have so much cortisol that's pumping through our little bodies to keep up with the expectations of society. And now they have social media where everyone's putting like a highlight reel and trying to be cute. But they feel this pressure. God, it was awful when I was growing up. I can't imagine what our children are going to go through. That scares me. The only thing I have control over at this moment with my child is I know where she is at all times. She does not sleep over with random anybody's. There are cameras in my house so I can see everything. And if she tells me something hurts, I believe her. She doesn't have a mommy and daddy that yell at each other. She knows what conflict resolution looks like. She's so loving that when we FaceTime her, she will hug the phone and she'll give us kisses. She feels safe. My child has a secure attachment that would not have happened had I not found recovery. Oh, thank God. So when I was 14 and like on my downhill spiral and I felt like I was killing it, I was put in my first pageant. Hello. Excuse me. Hey. So I went to my mom's hairdresser, Philip Norman, God rest his soul. He passed away a couple years ago. And he was like, Brenda Gale, she is so pretty. We should put her in pageants. Oh, dear God. And so I put on a dress, and I felt cute. I didn't want to do the pageant, though, because I was like, wait, you mean I have to interview with people and I have to say the right thing? That's how I felt. And they were like, anyway, so I did it. I competed. I looked cute. And I was there with, like, all of the pageant patties. Do you guys have pageant patties here? Or is it, like, growing? Are we growing out of that as a society? Anyway, pageant patties are the ones that are like, when I become as young Miss Russell County Fair, I will, whatever. So I'm not that person. So when they were asking me, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? In my interview process where I'm being judged, my mom tried to teach me answers. So one of the answers that I was told, like when they say, who do you look up to? I was supposed to say my granny because my granny got her GED at 50 and, oh, wow, that's so cool. And then, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I'd like to be a lawyer because I'm really good at arguing. And you know, when they asked me, you know, what would you like to see your life look like when you grow up? I was like, well, I want to graduate high school. I want to get my GED, and then I want to get my PhD. No, first I got the PhD, then I got the GED. That was the, you know, and and then I want to be a lawyer. I won. I don't know how, but God's funny. So the next day I was on the front page of all 2 newspapers in my town, and they were like, look how beautiful she is. 4.0 GPA, varsity cheerleader. Here she comes. You know what I mean? And I found my mask because for some reason people just could not imagine that a pageant girl could possibly be doing morphine for funsies. And that worked until it didn't. I had consequences. I had things happen. We all do. Life gets lifey, right? did not have a safe person anywhere near me. And the uncle that molested me became my best friend. He became my safe place as I got older. Can you imagine what my relationships looked like before I met my husband? I was a trollop. Anyway, because that's what I was taught love was. You know, if someone comes to me and they're like, did you hear what this neighbor girl did? She a hoe. I'm like, she probably was abused when she was younger. I'm not a gossiper. I'm like, damn, that sucks. Good for her. Late freak fag fi. Live your best life. You know what I mean? Like, I felt so judged my entire life that today there is nothing that anyone can say to me and I'll think, wow, you're a person. No way. Because we all have different experiences that make us uniquely beautiful, right? So I continued my pageant career. I won Young Miss Kentucky. No, Miss Kentucky Teen USA. And then I was on national television for the Miss Teen USA pageant in South Padre Island, Texas. And when I was doing my onstage question, they were like, what's the worst thing about boys? And I was like, crusty teeth. This is on live national television. Crusty teeth. You've got Crest. You've got Colgate. There's mouthwash. I just don't get it. If they got, no, crusty teeth. I got second runner up. Isn't that funny? And then if I looked at, it's mortifying. If you guys want to do a deep dive into my pageant shit, there's this video of them asking me questions during Miss Teen USA or whatever, and they were like, if you could be any animal, what would you be? And I was like, I'd be a parrot, because if I couldn't talk, I'd die. Mortifying. Oh, thank God for a sense of humor. So when I turned like 19, I got engaged to my alternative to suicide. His name was Adam. And he was going to be a great solution because his parents like were the president and like Stevens Pipe and Steel. Do you know what I'm talking about? Jamestown guy? Yeah, there you are. So you know Stevens Pipe and Steel? So that's like one of the bigger companies in the whatever. I was like, okay, I'm just going to get married, have babies, and just start this cycle all over again. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to get the pageant stuff over with. So I competed for Miss Kentucky. I won, duh. And then I went to Miss USA. And no way in the world did I ever believe that I would win Miss USA. Because people like me, we get good things that happen weirdly, but not that, right? And so I really wanted to get first runner-up because that would have made Kentucky history. Because Kristen Johnson, the year before, got second runner-up, and I was like, if I don't beat that bitch, you know, ego, you know. And oh my God, when they called second runner-up and it wasn't me, I was like, did it! You know what I mean? So I was standing there. It was between myself and Miss California, and I'm just telling her, girl, you're going to be the best Miss USA. You're going to kill it at Miss Universe. Good for you. And she was like, thank you. And then I beat her. And my entire world changed overnight. I was high as a kite. Well, I wasn't really feeling much. I took a Xanny bar because I had time for a break before the live telecast. I wasn't feeling anything. I barely remember winning. But I was like, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. Like crocodile tears, nothing's happening. I was like, oh my God, thank you. What is going on? What now? The following day, I moved to New York City. I've never lived alone before. I lived with Miss Teen USA and Miss Universe. We had the gnarliest pillow fights. That never happened. My life changed. So when I was living in Kentucky, I thought to myself, when I get the salary, that's when I'll feel better. When I get the esteem, that's when I'll feel better. When I get the title, that's when I'll feel better. When I date that celebrity, oh, that's going to be good. You know what I mean? I'm walking red carpets with A-list celebrities because I have this stupid sash that says I'm somebody. And I got everything that I thought would fix me on the outside. How many of you went to treatment and then you're like, I got to go back to school. I got to go back to school. I got to get a job. I got to get a car. I got to get all this stuff. And it's like, no, you need to go to a meeting. For real. Because Newsflash, that shit doesn't fix you at all. I know, sweetie, I get it. It's a really scary day when you get everything outside of you that you think is going to fix you on the inside, and it doesn't. That was a level of hopelessness that I had never experienced before. So 9 months into my reign, Miss Teen USA and I, this is so funny, my life is so weird. We went out, and her boyfriend was in town, and I don't know how, but she thought I was flirting with him, and I was like, no, like the brows on that guy. Anyway, so because she was like in this drunken rage, she called my boss and was like, I'm going to say this one time, and I'm never going to say it again. Tara's doing cocaine. So this was what's cool, though. That night, I didn't know that she did that, but that night I have done a copious amount of cocaine, and I thought that I thought I was overdosing because my heart was doing weird stuff. I'm like, you know what I mean? You feel like you can't really breathe. Like, we've been there. And some call this psychosis. I call it God. I heard an audible voice say to me, there's a thunderstorm coming through, and you're going to be drug tested tomorrow. But if you flush everything you have and don't touch it again, I promise I'll carry you through this. And I went right to sleep. On cocaine. That doesn't happen for the normies in the room. That doesn't happen. Not even close. You're just like, when you come down from that stuff, you're like, God, I'll never do it again. I'm so sorry. Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. Ah! It's like an anxiety on crack. Literally. Anyway. So the next day, I get a call from my boss, and she says, you need to come into the office. And I trusted what that voice said. I flushed what I had, which is a huge no-no. Like, that's a waste. You know what I mean? But I flushed what I had, and they said, we're going to take you for a drug test. And I was like, that's not necessary. I'm going to fail? Oh, am I going to fail? But they took me anyway. The next morning, I turned on the radio, and it says, Miss USA has failed a drug test for cocaine. Oh, shit. And by the end of the night, I was on SportsCenter's top 10 flops of the day. Yes. Good God. I was national news. I was the #1 searched person in December of 2006 before Anna Nicole Smith died and stole my thunder. God rest her soul. But, like, I'm glad you guys have a good sense of humor. I mean, when I try to tell jokes to normies, I can literally see them sweat. So... my life changed. I spent my entire life trying to prove to you that I wasn't the piece of shit you thought I was. And overnight, I proved everybody right. There was no anonymity. I didn't have that option. For 2 weeks, I was national news. Is she, isn't she? Because my boss was Donald Trump. And this was during The Apprentice, where it's like, you're fired. Like, that was like the thing. So on the front page of all the papers, they're like, disgraced Miss USA fails a drug test. TMZ coined Mess USA, and that is brilliant. It is my gamer tag for all of my gamer thingies. Like, I wear that like a pride badge of honor. It's amazing. I even did a clothing brand, Mess USA. So I had to hide out in Columbus, Ohio, because the paparazzi were in Russell Springs giving my grandmother a poinsettia because it was during Christmas, saying, hi, here's a poinsettia. Would you like to give us a quote on what's happened to your granddaughter? She thought I died. Isn't that messed up? So for 2 weeks, I'm national news, and I'm just riding it. You know what I mean? Just trying to like stay under the rock. And then I get a call from the organization, the Miss Universe organization, and they say, we're going to fly you back to New York. We're doing a press conference. You need to pack up your belongings in the apartment. We don't know what's going to happen. So I fly back to New York. I pack up my apartment. This was a weird thing. I am not religious. I've always been a little like, because I just had some really bad things impressed upon me. But I had a Bible, and I opened it up, and I just pointed my finger. I was like, God, give me a sign. And work brain, what was it? Psalm like 17 or something like that. I'm probably way off, but it said victory in the face of defeat. And I was like, that's cool. So I go to the press conference, and I have to have a meeting with my boss. We had to call him Mr. Trump because that was the rules. And he says, what am I supposed to do with this? You're out on the town, you're dancing on tables, you're kissing girls. I was like, sir, I never danced on a table. And we can be pretty manipulative. We know how to get what we want, because how many of us have tried to protect our disease because it's the only thing that kept us alive for so long, right? And so I said, well, Mr. Trump, I think that it would say far more about the organization and far more about your character if you helped me, and I can turn this around, and I'll be the best damn Miss USA you've ever seen. He sits back in his chair, and he goes, Trump saves Miss USA. I like it. I like it. So we go down to this press conference where they're announcing to the world my fate. And he says, make sure you tell him I saved your life. And then he goes, bring on the tears. They love that. Y'all, my life was on the line. And I'm being told to bring on the tears. They love that. And so I did. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for any disgrace I put on my family. But I wasn't going to say that he saved my life. Kick rocks. I was like, thank you for saving me on this one. Like I made it work. So the next day I'm chucked into rehab publicly. I went to the Care and Treatment Center. They're pretty great. And I find out later that while I'm in treatment, some people were upset. They may or may not have been the president. And they were like, why isn't she going to clubs and being photographed? We should be making money off of this. So I tell that part of my story because it's just my truth. But the people that told me that the Miss Universe organization leaked my drug test, which is completely against HIPAA, said, if you tell anybody that I told you it was me, I'll tell them you're a liar. I've been called a liar since I was 3 years old. My dad says that I'm a great storyteller, that my uncle never touched me, even though he was indicted for molesting his own children. But that was my fault, because I'm a great storyteller. So I always say that our angels do not always show up in sheep's clothing. Sometimes they're draped as wolves, but they're still planting a seed. Because had that not happened the way that it did, had I not had that public humiliation with all of my skeletons out of the closet, including some I did not know that I had, I didn't have to prove anything. Here I am. This is what you got. You know what I mean? So I go to treatment, and I start hearing everyone talk about this disease of alcoholism, and I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. I'm not a drug addict. I'm Miss USA. I'm too cute for this shit. You know what I mean? But anytime someone would finally identify, they would get like a wild applause, and I was like, I want that. So we're in the circle, and I'm like, hi, my name is Tara, and I'm an alcoholic. And they're like, woo! And I was like, yeah. So, because I love attention, and I didn't buy it at that time. But here's the deal. I had so many eyeballs on me for so long, because then after I got out of treatment, I had to do a media tour talking about my experience, and that's totally normal, right? So I have Matt Lauer being like, were you ever abused? And I'm like, I don't think I'm really ready to talk about that yet. And then another guy, this has been bugging the piss out of me. I'm just going to put this over here. Thank you, babe. I appreciate it. I was recently diagnosed with OCD. So another guy on Good Morning America was like, do you think you tarnished the crown? And I was like, well, maybe. But if everyone keeps looking at addiction as a bad thing, no one's going to want to get help. Because the thing that I did learn is that these heroin addicts and alcoholics and all of these people that were my peers at the time, I related to every single emotion that they had ever talked about, that they had ever experienced. I heard a young girl in like a chemsex meeting. I don't think they called it that yet, but like, we've evolved. And she shared about how she was molested by a family member, and it gave me a voice. I was like, holy shit, me too. People were just like pouring their hearts out and sharing about things that I related to. They were the kids in school that I wish I would have found, because then I would have felt like I belonged. For the first time in my life, I belonged. And so, oh gosh, I immediately came out a recovery advocate because I did get this fire that was built within me, because I knew that there were so many people out there just like me who had had similar experiences, and I found out that there's a solution, there's a way up and out of it, and that doesn't have to be the rest of your life. So they made me a recovery advocate. Whew. But here's the crappy part. Like, I was doing talks about my experience at 30 days. But I'm a good parrot. Like, when I hear people say really good stuff, I'm like, I'm going to use that. And so for the first 5 years of my recovery, I stayed sober because everyone was looking at me. And I was trying to prove them all wrong, right? Well, then I started having these crazy symptoms of unmanageability, because I went to meetings and stuff, but I didn't do steps because I wasn't like those people. Oh, God. And then, I get to 8 years of sobriety, and I'm crispy as crispy can be. I start dating this guy who is an active addiction. I start allowing things to happen in my life that I swore I would never do, right? Same thing with the drug use. It's like, I'll never do cocaine. I'm in a relationship with someone that he's putting his hands on me, I'm putting my hands on him. We both played a role, But my self-esteem was in the shitter. And I had a friend that said to me, if you continue this relationship, I don't think that I can, she drew a boundary. I can't stay in this friendship because I can't watch you kill yourself. I had dropped down to like 100 pounds. I'm about $130 right now, so that's 30 pounds less than this. And because I was going through a breakup, I got my lips done, and I looked like a duck, and I was like, at least I'm cute, You can always tell when someone's going through a breakup because they'll buy a new car, they'll cut their bangs, or they'll get, like, crazy filler. Anyway, they'll start posting quotes on Instagram, like, know your worth. Anyway, and so what happened was I had my ego death. I hit my spiritual bottom, my emotional bottom. And I woke up one day and I was like, holy crap, man. Cocoa Puffs isn't going to make me feel better. Forensic Files is not cutting it. And I love Peter Thomas. Like, that narrator put me to sleep on days that my anxiety would not allow me to. He was my safe place. God rest his soul. Pizza wasn't going to fix it. I couldn't keep food down because I was so anxious. I was a shell of a human being sober. My head didn't go to, I want a drink. My head went to, where's the nearest bridge? Because that's untreated alcoholism. It's not cute. And again, I was positioned to be a role model as a recovery advocate. So how can I say to you at like 5, 6 years sober that, hey, I'm dying on the inside and I'm not getting it? Can you help me? Because we're all so freaking afraid of how we look. My pride and my fear of what you thought of me almost killed me twice. So I go to a meeting with my friend who went to a lot of meetings. She had a lot of commitments. She had to go to Skid Row because she had to mop the bathrooms, and we had to get there really early, and I couldn't be alone, so I went with her, and I was like, you do what? You read out of the book every day? Why? You have to go to a meeting every day? Your sponsor seems like a control freak. So her sponsor comes up to me before this meeting starts. He's like, how you doing? Yes, it's a he. Scandal. He says, how you doing? I was like, well, I just moved into an apartment that I don't know if I can afford it. My boyfriend won't go to therapy. I can't eat for shit. I can't sleep. I'm miserable. How the are you? And he said, if you need someone to take you through the steps, I'd be honored. And I was like, you have less time than me, sir. And that whole meeting, I sat there and I just like rocked back and forth and I was sobbing. It was like that anger where you know that they're right, but you don't want to admit it, but you know that they're right. So I went up to him after the meeting and I was like, will you take me through the steps? He said, are you willing to go to any lengths? I asked you, didn't I? You know what I mean? So for 3 years of my recovery, I made step work, 12-step work, that kind of stuff my life. I went to a meeting every single day and I didn't miss it because that was my direction. I went through the book once a week with my sponsor. I had 700 names on my inventory, and that's not because I'm more crazy. I was just very sober for a long time, and my behavioral addictions I remembered. You know what I mean? I had 400 amends, 200 were in person. I did every single one of them. There's nothing that you can say to me today that's going to make me be like, I'm sorry. Because how many people, how many good faith, whatever, makes a handshake with God and says, okay, let's go clean this up? I learned that being unmanageable means that I can't unmanage, let me try that again. I can't manage my emotional nature, and when I feel messed up on the inside, my head tries to tell me to get loaded. I didn't realize that powerlessness just means lacking the power to do better than that. And it had nothing to do with the alcohol or the drugs. Nothing. That was the Band-Aid. And so I could see how my trauma from growing up too fast, from being in these positions, learning how to survive. Like, I wasn't a bad person, guys. I just had to survive. It was only me. So I had to use people to put food in my mouth. I had to use friends and whatnot so that if the shit hit the fan, I wouldn't go down. How many of you have had that fear of, oh God, when's the other foot gonna drop? I'm gonna die a cold, dark, lonely death. It's a big one. And so for years, I just tried to survive. But when I finally was able to get honest with myself, because I'm a great liar, but I'm a bigger liar to me, I buy the lie. That this is going to make it better. This is going to make me feel good. This is what's going to change me. I found a new way of life. There's these things called the promises. And they were like, you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's true. I started having these experiences with a higher power that I was able to create that aligned with my belief system that I could buy into, that it was actually a relationship. I don't say, God, please give me patience. No, I say, you be patient because I don't have it. You know what I mean? It's like a loophole. It's a life hack, y'all. I invite my higher power to do for me what I cannot do for myself. And I also learned a really great lesson that the best, bless you, the most profound thing that I can ever say is, I don't know. I had to stop being a know-it-all. I had to stop being too cute for that. I had to figure out how to be humble enough to say, I'm dying on the inside and I need direction. And so my life changed. I met my husband when I was around 11 years sober. I was just finishing up my amends process. And we met, and he had been in, I won't say that. I had known of him for 7 years, and I liked to follow him. Let's just say that. And he had no idea who I was, but he joined a band that one of my exes was in, but I was always booed up, and then he had this really cool girlfriend that had all these tattoos. I was like, but I finally got single. So I was bored, so I followed him. And he was like, oh my gosh, thanks for the follow. How do you know me? And I was like, ugh. I love you. But when I met him, he looked like a heroin addict, possibly gay. And I was like, I am in. I am in. Yeah, I'm going to fix him. Well, he's a fashion designer, and he's just very positive and kind, and I'd never met anyone that was that genuinely kind to people. So I was like, something wrong with you, you know what I mean? And so against my better judgment, my friends were like, can you please not mess this one up? Because I actually like him. And I was like, fine. And so a year later, we were married, and now we're coming up on 8 years? Is it 7 years married? 8 years together, 7 years married, November the 11th. And I still like him. Like, we're best friends. And he met me when I was on fire for recovery. And I'm like, one of our first dates, I took him to a CA meeting that I was leading. And I'm talking about how big of a trollop I used to be and how I used to just be a gnarly cheater because I cheated on all my boyfriends. There was no shame in my game because I was free as a bird, you know? But I think he just saw the goodness in me, and I definitely saw it in him. And the more I got to know him, I found out that he was also raised in a house that was dysfunctional. He had a dad who was like a heavy metal hairband kind of guy. His name's Izzy. He's awesome. And his mom was a drug addict. She became a drug addict when she was around 12 years old. She was in and out of the prison system. She was on most wanted list, I think. She died in 2018 with a needle in her arm. We're not sure that she's actually dead, though. We think it's a cover-up because she cray, okay? Like, wow. She was a gang leader. She was awesome. But he met the recovered version of his mom. The trauma that he had to go through was watching his brothers get tricked out so that she could get the next one. I've done things that I didn't want to do when I was getting loaded. And so I feel like I was able to give him a small perspective shift on that. And that all women are not that scary. Excuse me. Hello. Hello. Hey. So I never wanted to have children because I'm selfish. And I like my sleep. And then the night we got married, he said, I kind of want to put a baby in you. And I was like, all right. And so we slipped one past the goalie for the first time. And I was like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like going on social media, eating. I was just ordering every day from Postmates, like McFlurries from McDonald's because the baby was hungry. And I took my first pregnancy test, and it was negative. And so we did it again the next month, and it was negative. And then 6 months went by, and it was negative. And then a year went by, and it was negative. And my best friend got pregnant, and her sister got pregnant, and everyone else was getting pregnant except for me. I'm also being walked around with like eggshells because they all felt so guilty for being able to be fertile. Stupid fertiles. I'm joking, for the most part. So it was the hardest thing I went through in my life because how unfair. I went my whole life not wanting to even like think about having children because when I became sexually active at 14, trauma survivor, my mom would always pray that just don't get pregnant. Please just don't get pregnant. Please just don't get pregnant. And then I turned 30 and she was like, well, I've already accepted I'm never having any grandchildren. Wow. And so I was so angry at God because I had done so much work. I've done far more service work than most church people. I cleaned it up. I hit my knees. I did all the right things. And the answer was no, 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 not right now, no, no. And now they're having 2 kids. And I'm watching everyone have the life that I want. And it's just not happening for me. I was so mad at God. Because I also re-domesticated myself when I was going in and out of my 12-step program that if I didn't go to a meeting every day, then something bad could happen. If I didn't do this, like I needed to make my God bigger. And so I did because COVID hit. And I was like, I can't go to a meeting every day. You know what I mean? Like I got to sit in my house and do nothing. And it was great. I didn't have to be somebody. I spent my whole life trying to prove to you that I'm somebody. And for the first time, I wasn't allowed to be somebody because people were getting real salty when people were going on vacations during COVID. So I was just like, I just get to be a person. And it was great. And so after a very long time of not conceiving, we got to year 4 of no. We decided to seek fertility treatments. $85,000 later, I conceived my daughter. Thank you. We retrieved 7 eggs from my very dusty ovaries. 5 of them fertilized, 4 of them became embryos, but only 1 of them was healthy. The chances of that happening and her sticking was very minimal, but she stuck. Thank God. Because God wants us to have the desires of our heart. If the desire of your heart is to have a full life and to help people and be free, you're going to get that. But if the desire of your heart is to have one more, you're going to get that too. Because God respects us enough to let us kill ourselves. God didn't molest me. My uncle did. People have free will. People are jerks. But they're also suffering. I've done a lot of bad things when I'm suffering. What people need is a little freaking grace. What people need is someone to say, you can't tell me anything that's going to make me judge you. Just give it to me. I can handle it. I stopped doing public speaking during 2020 because there were no crowds. So I helped fill in for one of my friends who was a yoga teacher. It's something that I did in my spare time. I learned how to do it. And they paid way more than the yoga studio. So I went to go fill in for her yoga group at a rehab. It was a detox, and everyone was like nodding out on subs. And I was like, these people aren't going to do yoga. So I just talked to them. And then the therapist overheard me, and he was like, you'd be a great facilitator. I was like, I don't know what that is. But I figured it out, and they hired me. And then I went to the next place to fill in for her while she was on vacation, and that place hired me. And then I went to the next place to fill in for her, and that place hired me. I do anywhere from 16 to 20 process groups every single week, and I love it. It's all virtual. It's awesome. I get to do it from bed. But I tell my clients, especially when they're brand new with me, I'm like, there's nothing that you're going to say to me that's going to make me clutch my pearls. This is a safe and non-judgmental space. When I'm not doing well, I'll let you know. Because how can I expect you to be vulnerable with me if I won't disclose to you? I let them know when I'm going through a depression swing and I need my meds to change. I let them know the advice that my psychiatrist and therapist gives me. Like, I let you guys in. When I speak on these platforms, I tell you what's happening. Because life gets lifey. Recovery does not promise us that life isn't going to life and that it isn't going to get hard, but it does promise us some tools where we can walk through it with some grace and dignity, and I don't have to hurt people when I'm hurting. I wish there were more people out there that made it a safe place to live in this world. So the spirit in this room, the alumni that showed up and their families, the people that have been creating a safe place for you to heal and grow, this is a big job. When I saw that those plants were from Bill W.'s garden, I was like, what? I'm taking one home. Like, I am pumped. Like, that is just so exciting, and recovery invigorates me. It makes me happy. Like, I love watching people come from a place to a place. I spoke at an event last week in Michigan, and one of the clients that I had worked at 2 of the different IOPs that I telehealth through got his year. He lived in Michigan. He bought tickets to come to the event. I brought him my 2-year chip as a hope chip and then brought him up and acknowledged him in front of the crowd because he's one of mine. How amazing is that? My life has such beautiful meaning today. I have a daughter that's growing up in a house where her parents don't yell at each other, that they love each other and they kiss each other and snuggle, and we're pretty gross, but we love it. She has a grandmother who's getting a do-over. So I'm watching my mom love my daughter the way that she wished she could have loved me. I don't like that she's trying to put her hair in a ponytail. But I have tools today where I can just tell her, like, hey, Mama, if she doesn't want to do it, it's okay. Like, I just want her to feel safe being her, whoever she is. So I'm a safe place for a lot of people, and what a freaking blessing that is. What a gift. What a responsibility. But wow. I grew up doing pageants because I hated them, and then I tripped and fell into my purpose. And if you think that there's no purpose outside of hitting your bottom, you're doing God's work. And if you don't believe in God, you're a superhero. Like, our empathy makes us superheroes. So showing up and showing your day count, I remember there was a girl when I had like 90 days, and I was like, oh my God, she's so wise. She has 90 days. And then we reconnected 18 years later over Instagram because she's going through infertility. And I realized that we had the same time. And I was like, why did I feel like you had 6 years? Because even if you have 90 days, the impact that you're putting on someone with 24 hours is huge. I mean, she was, oh my gosh. And she had 90 days more than me. So recovery, hey, hello, there it is. Recovery's not always going to be easy. If you do it the right way, nope. Hello, okay. It's not always going to be easy. Life is still going to life. You are not promised that bad things are not going to happen. You are going to go through tax troubles. You're going to go through financial issues. You're going to go through breakups, divorce, whatever. People are going to get sick. You might lose a few animals. Like, life is going to get shitty. But I don't have to drink or use no matter what. I don't have to drink or use no matter what. That doesn't even come to my mind. When I was in rehab, I was like, what do you mean I'm not going to be able to, like, have a glass of champagne at my wedding? I wasn't even booed up. I didn't even have a boyfriend. I did get a girlfriend in treatment. Her name was Melissa. It was everything. And then I introduced her to my parents just to really piss them off. You know what I mean? God gives us what we need. But I had the privilege of getting to know some of the people that run this amazing program last night. And I am so grateful to be trusted to tell my story. I am so grateful to be able to connect with people on a human level because, oh my God, don't we need it? I'm so grateful. And Brandon, you're great. You should be the mayor. And Stacy really is an amazing boss. I can see the respect that she gets from people. And MJ, you are loved. You are loved. So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to take home a plant from Bill W.'s garden. I'm taking it through the airport. I'm like, mine, you know, Susan. Anyway. And if right now you feel like it's not going to get better, I promise it'll pass. Feelings have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then something new is going to happen, and then you're going to grow through that. And then someone's going to struggle with it, and you're going to be able to help them. So I have this IVF community that hangs on to every word. I have a recovery community that hangs on to every word. Like, my close list of friends is small, but they would take a bullet for me, and I would take a bullet for them. I'm not trying to be popular, and I definitely am not trying to be liked, because guess what? That almost killed me twice. People either love me or they hate me, but that's none of my business. I get the opportunity to show up and be with my people, not only at events like this, but every single day in the work that I do, because I feel more like myself in a room like this or in a process group because I know that I'm safe. So one day, 30 days, 90 days, 9 months, okay. You know what I mean? Years, it's not always going to be easy. But if you stay close and stay in the middle and just stop being like, well, what about this? If you can get the ability to say, maybe I don't know, because with this brain, I make some pretty poor decisions. I've done a lot of things wrong in recovery, done a few things right, but what I've learned is that this life is absolutely worth living. And there are hidden joys and treasures everywhere you go. God puts breadcrumbs in our way. Sometimes our angels are dressed as wolves. I'm not a victim. I take full accountability for my actions. I still get people almost 20 years later, y'all, being like, you just need to take accountability. And I'm like, okay. So take accountability. I'm just kidding. You are the next generation of superheroes. You get to have the children that can see parents that went from a place to a place. We get to show people that hitting a rock bottom is such a privilege, and that we're all worthy of love. We're all worthy of respect. We're all worthy of acknowledgement. We're all worthy of being believed. And thank you. That's it. Thank you. Are we answering questions? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If you need to go pee or do whatever, live your best life.
But come back, because this is the most fun. A couple things. You guys can ask some questions. Also, we know it's a fun time for you guys to be able to share a little bit about yourself. I am so touched by this whole thing, and the silly little Charlies on your. Take as many as you want.
Okay.
Please take the plants. If I take one home, my husband will probably divorce me because the story is about 8 years ago, Brad Twoll, who some of you may know, he's in recovery. I was at a gratitude dinner, and he gave me this little shitty little tiny plant. And I've never met a plant that I didn't like and didn't try to save. And I saved it, and honest to goodness, each of these plants came from that one little plant.
Yeah.
And the story goes is that that plant originated with Lois and Bill, and they started giving it to people in recovery, and those people in recovery started giving it to people in recovery. My husband actually does most of the work. I just direct really well. But as we were packaging them up to bring them here, a bunch of the little tendrils broke off. And I was starting to get really frustrated because it's like, we put a lot of time into these plants. And what I realized is it was like, you guys, it's like recovery, right? Like sometimes your plant is gonna get really big and really healthy really fast. And sometimes you might break off a piece or break away from the whole. But all you have to do is have a little sliver of hope and put that damn sprout in some water because it'll come back. And even if you don't think you have a green thumb, if you kill your plant, you can always come to us and we'll give you another one. So pass it on. But please, if you have questions, Brandon is the runner. You know, you get in your 60s and they start respecting you. No, but he's going to run to the table. So if you have questions, please. That was amazing.
Thank you. And I'm an open book, so no question is off limits. Let's get weird. Does anyone have a question? Just raise your hand.
Anybody want to say anything? Come on.
Thank you.
Anybody? Seriously, we're...
Oh, yeah. Brandon's like, they might, babe. I love my husband. He's so cute.
Oh.
Stand up. This is my husband, Eli James.
Hi. Mic check. Okay. Through all the years that you've gone through your experiences, and even today you get some things that can be challenging, what are the tools that you still keep in your toolbox that are like to-go-tos
Yeah.
to make sure that you're okay today?
Okay, so when I was around 10 years sober, I actually went to a psychiatrist for the first time, and I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, a panic disorder. Later on, it was ADD. After I had ZZ, I got postpartum OCD, but not like the, oh, I need to pick this up off the floor, which that really did bother me, so I might need to look at that. But I have intrusive thoughts that get really gnarly, and they feel like they're real. So I work with a whole team, man. I've got a psychiatrist that knows me well, and I know that if I've been in a slump for whatever reason, sometimes there's no reason, sometimes it's situational, but I know what's normal for me, and I know what's not normal for me. But once you've experienced peace for a long time, you don't want to give it up for anything. I am a huge advocate for meetings. I have very close friends. Hey, see, Brandon, I told you. I have very close friends. I have the one, if I need to go to for spiritual advice, who is the one that I covered the yoga classes for. She's like a little spiritual butterfly. I have my friend who also works in treatment. She's a normie, but she's married to one of us who is untreated, and it is fun to watch. But she knows when I'm not doing well, and she's the one that I can go to and say that crazy stuff, and she'll be like, exactly. Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? Like, I have my village. And that village has changed a lot. Becoming a mother changed a lot of things for me. And the village got smaller, but now it's just better quality. So I suffered in silence for most of my early recovery. I don't recommend it. If you are hurting, open your mouth. It is not a sign of weakness. That is the biggest courageous sign of strength that you could ever put out there. So thanks for the question, Daddy. You're welcome. I know that sounds weird when I call him Daddy, but he's a dad. Okay.
How's it going, Tara?
Hi.
I'm an addict named Ken.
Hi.
First of all, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So first of all, I got a 1.5 part question. So first half, this is actually for your husband. Is your dad Izzy Stradlin?
What?
Is your dad Izzy Stradlin?
Straggly?
Stradlin?
No, his name's Izzy Riam. He was in a band called Rottweiler.
Okay, cool. Just checking. Okay, sorry. And then, so my question for you is about obviously like being in the pageant world. We have these kind of ridiculous beauty standards we hold people to. What role, if any, do you kind of see that play in addiction and self-image?
I mean, I feel like anytime you put your place in a position like being in a beauty pageant, you're just setting yourself up to be judged. It plays a large role, but it's not just pageant girls, it's women in general. We get fed, they're starting to feed me ads for like how to dress in your 40s. Go away. Try this new weight loss drug. This will like boost the collagen in your skin. This new Korean mask is the tits. Like it's all this stuff, right? But the society pressures that we all face is all an illusion. None of it matters. This dress was $12. I'm pretty sure the shoes were $5. I don't care. I don't know. I think that people should be seen from the inside, and that should matter the most. And frankly, I feel like I'm getting cuter the older I'm getting. So, thanks, Daddy. But there is a lot of pressure, and a lot of young girls have to go through that because now they see it on a larger scale through social media. Social media is the devil. It's awful, but I think really, especially as a parent, stressing, how are you doing? Get good at motivational interviewing. You know what I mean? How did that make you feel? Oh, what happened then? Oh, okay. Did that make you feel sad? That must have been hard. Like really connecting with people, especially young ones, and letting them know that it's okay to make mistakes because they don't even have a brain that's developed until they're 26. But let's lock them up for getting a DUI. I don't get it. Okay, sorry, I went off on a tangent. Did that answer your question? Thank God. My ADD is wild. Who else? You can also yell it. Yeah. What? What did you say?
Can they come up to your table if they want to?
Yeah, no pressure. Question, Jamestown, let's go. Hi, Aaron. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in that. Thank you. My question is, at what point did you fully accept, at what point did you start leaning into acceptance in your role in that, as an alcoholic, as an addict, and how did you get? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure of the question, but how did you manage that? How did you manage that?
Being in the spotlight and getting sober in front of God and everybody.
Separating yourself from that. Yeah, sure. But then actually being okay and then like fully accepting.
Yeah.
What was that process? What did that look like?
The process started, like, I started getting death threats as soon as my failed drug test was put out there. It gets even worse because if I tell my story now in any capacity, for some people, if I don't say Donald Trump is the best, then they literally will be like, that's your president, shame on you. I'm like, I didn't say anything. I just said this is what he said, I didn't say it. I have come into acceptance that the things that really matter to me are my family, my marriage, my clients, my daughter, my cats. I'm really hoping that Kevin's getting better today. I keep it close, you know. My sobriety comes above everything because if I don't have that, I don't have any of the good stuff, you know. But it did take me a while, but when I really realized that I couldn't save my face and my ass at the same time, that's when it really changed for me. And so I was just like, this is just who I am. And if you don't like it, that's okay. Unfortunately, there's social media, so people will let you know. I was in a group 2 days ago, and one of the clients came from another program, and he was telling me how he had a small little relapse. And I was like, it's okay. It's just information. You're here. You've got smart feet. And then this other guy who was in another program still pulled him to the side and was like, she doesn't care about you. She's so fake. Blah, blah, blah. And he just felt so offended. And so he had to tell me how much shit this guy talked about me. And I was like, that has nothing to do with me. But thank you for being so protective and kind. He's just probably having a bad day. I learned that people's perception of me is none of my business because I didn't do it. I can't make anybody feel anything. If I punch you in the face, you'll feel that. But like emotionally, I can't trigger anybody. You're the trigger.
We got one right here.
Yeah.
In the center.
Lights.
Hi,
Hi.
Landon, addict, alcoholic.
Hi.
Hi. I just want to say thank you for, as someone who's gone through psychosis myself and how you can hear kind of voices and people think that you're crazy, but when you go through something as severe as psychosis, sometimes there is a voice that you hear, and I believe that is God.
I do
and
too.
I appreciate your courage to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I felt ostracized when telling people like the stuff that I've gone through, even some of my closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
Not my family here at this table. I have nothing but support. And
Yeah.
how frustrating it is when they don't believe me or they don't
Right.
understand. But
Yeah.
like I know what I went through, and I just wanted to maybe speak for anyone else who's been through psychosis in this room.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun.
It is not
and
fun.
it's very evil. So I just want to
Yeah.
say thank you.
Thank you. I used to also get really gnarly sleeping paralysis. Did you get that?
So I don't take Benadryl.
It wasn't even Benadryl. I would wake up and I'd be like, this demon's on top of me. Get it off. And I'd be like, please, God. Thank you for normalizing that. Girl, we need you. We need you. You got to be careful. Okay.
My name is Jason. I'm an addict.
Hi.
Mine's more of a statement. I just wanted to first say thank you and how impressed I was with your message and your story. As a friend of many women in the recovery program,
Mm-hmm.
I feel there's a gap in a lot of us, really strong women voices, and I want to encourage as many women to be able to stand up and be a leader within recovery because there's so many strong stories and voices
Yeah.
and things that I can relate to as
Yeah.
seeing things in the house or things that and you
Mm-hmm.
standing up there and having that strong voice, just a lot of the women in the room, I really just hope that we can get together and
Yeah.
make sure that your voice is heard as much as a male's. And
I
just wanted to
appreciate
say
that. Yeah, thank you. And it's hard, guys. Being a woman, like, I love everything that you just said. You don't know how many times I've told my story and then had people come up to me and tell me how inappropriate I am. So, which, I mean, I get it. I'm polarizing. You either love me or you hate me. And again, none of my business. But, like, even in the rooms, people have opinions. And we don't live in a world where women can just say whatever they want because they're just women. That sucks. It's not like that everywhere, but universally, we don't get a lot of respect, if you will. But what I will say to all of my ladies, you're freaking perfect. Like, use your voice. It's okay. We just get shamed more because we're mothers. How could you do that to your child? If having a baby kept people sober, none of us would be here. You know? So I love that. I love that. And thank you for being someone that creates that safe place for them to be open. Yeah. Go where the love is. That's what I was going to tell you about the psychosis thing. Like, if you find that you're speaking your experience or your truth to someone that's kind of giving you some, like, pushback, don't go back to them. Go where the love is. Go to the people that are like, wow, that's crazy, but I'm here. Let me know if you ever get there. It sounds fun. You know? It's not fun. No. I did send my mom to, like, a breakthrough program for, like, codependency because she got to the point where I was solely in charge of her emotional nature. So every day I would get a call and she would say things like, a car fell out of a parking structure in California. Are you okay? And I would be like, I think I'm okay. But her livelihood depended on my mood, and that's too much responsibility. So she went to a treatment program. She did not do the follow-up with aftercare, but what I did was I learned how to create really solid boundaries. So we have a lot of different views on a lot of different things, but that's okay. She is perfectly in her right to have the feelings and views that she has, and then I'm perfectly within mine, you know? So there's a lot of respect with my mom and I. I don't have a relationship with my dad at the moment because it's not safe. And I'm never going to let my daughter see someone mistreat me and get away with it. Go ahead.
All right, one more.
Okay.
Right.
Just one? Okay, fine.
Hey, hello.
Hi.
I'm David, and I'm an addict.
Hi, David.
So I got out of the ridge 3 days ago, and
Congratulations.
thank you.
Woo, woo!
Appreciate it. So I'm doing PHP, and